What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another Marvel Future Fight video. Alright, so this video is actually going to be a top 10 uniforms, or at least my opinion of the top 10 uniforms that you should buy or that you must own, because the uniforms are just really good, either for the character or just for certain aspects in the game. Again, these uniforms are just going to be kind of my opinion on the uniforms that I think are really just powerful right now in the game, or have really good uses, multiple uses, and that kind of thing. I'm not going to be like weighing the uniforms differently, say if the uniform takes them from being like really garbage characters to just being okay or strong characters. So it's not based on how well the uniform reworks the character. So some of these characters are going to be strong even without their uniforms. These are just characters that with the uniform are just in a really good place in the game right now. So that's basically how I'm doing it. And also, you know, there's a little bit of bias there. So the characters that I play more often, of course, are going to be the characters I'm more experienced with, and thus probably make it on the list, whereas some other characters may have really good uniforms, but either I just don't play them much, or I don't like the rotation or something like that, so maybe they get knocked down a peg or two. So for this list here, I'm not going to be putting them in any particular order. So if you're expecting like number one to be the uniform that I think is like overall best in the game, it's not really the way I'm going to do it. Out of the top 10, they're basically just in a random order. It just happened to be how I favorited the uniforms to keep track of them, and then how I wrote them down on my paper here. So that's just going to be how they appear. And then for any character that is a native tier 2 or a paywall character, I'm going to give a alternate uniform for them of a free-to-play character that I also think is really good. So some of these will have dual uniforms. So for example, if we pull a native tier 2, I'm also going to give a free-to-play option as well, either for people that are new to the game, so they haven't got up to that native tier 2 yet, or they just didn't want to invest the resources or anything like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and hop into the first uniform on my list here. Alright, so the first uniform is going to be Jean Grey, and again, these are in no particular order. She just happened to be the first one that got wrote down after favoriting the uniforms, and Jean Grey is a native tier 2, so we'll be giving you another option, but Jean Grey is just a powerhouse when it comes to PvP. I just keep her uniform equipped, and I just auto PvP or timeline, so I don't really have to worry or think about it. She's very strong in ABX. She can still do very well in World Boss Ultimate. I mean, she's fallen behind, of course, compared to some other characters out there, but she's just an all-around, just very strong character for most pieces of content in this game. So pretty much every aspect of the game she can do well in. She may not be the best in all of them, except for maybe PvP. I still think she's really high up there, even though she does have quite a few counters and stuff like that. But for me, she always seems to just auto through pretty much every team that I fight. So that's why Jean is making on the list here. And again, either uniform here, this one's going to be more PvP focused, and this one's going to be more PvE focused. So this one has higher damage output, but this one has better survivability and crowd control for PvP. So both of these uniforms are just in the same slot. And then as an alternate, so as a free-to-play option, the other uniform that I'm going to have here in this particular slot, so for number one on the list, is going to be Black Widow. And Black Widow here is another character that is really good in basically all aspects of the game, and has two uniforms that kind of change up her specialty in the game as well. So Black Widow with the white suit here is going to be very powerful in PvP content for timeline and stuff like that, and she can definitely auto through timeline as well with this uniform. It's not going to have as high of a damage output as the black suit here, but it is still going to be a great uniform for survivability and for PvP content. The black suit here is mainly going to be for your PvE content because it has a higher damage output, but it does actually have a little bit less survivability than the white suit here in PvE content, just because this one has the invisibility, whereas this one does not. So that's going to be the number one slot. So let's move on to number two. Number two is going to be our free-to-play queen here, which is going to be Sharon Rogers. So Sharon Rogers here with her Star Knight armor is just, well, amazing. If you don't already have this uniform, I don't know what you're doing. She is just a PvE machine. She can destroy any PvE content. She can go as high as you want, depending, of course, on your build and your cards. But yeah, she's just an amazing PvE character. Great survivability, great damage output. That's pretty much all I have to say about her. She can even do a little bit of PvP, but she's not recommended for PvP. But yeah, so that's going to be the number 2 uniform. So number 3 is going to be Ghost Rider. So Ghost Rider here was a newer tier 3, or one of the newer tier 3s that we got, and yeah, he just has some insane damage output with this uniform. His survivability is not great. He is kind of a glass cannon, but his damage output is just insane against supervillains, so that's why Ghost Rider is making on the list as well, and he's free to play. So yeah, he's got quite a few things that make him very enticing to buy. So yeah, Ghost Rider is number 3 on the list here. He's just, yeah, he's crazy. He can work with a regular obelisk. You can work with CTPs. You can do pretty much whatever you want with him, and you'll get some great damage. Of course, rage is going to be the best on him. And that's also something I guess I forgot to mention at the start of this video here is for most of the characters, I will mention if they require a rage to be on the list here. If they do require a rage, that's another instance where I'll give you an alternative uniform in the place of the character, which I don't think I had anyone on the list like that. But yeah, if they require a rage, I'm going to give you an alternative character that doesn't require rage, because I know rages are quite a bit of investment for a lot of characters. So anyway, Ghost Rider was number 4 on the list, so let's move on to number 5. Alright, so here is the actual number 4. I realized when I was editing this video that I had completely skipped over number 4, because for some reason when I was recording, I counted Black Widow as number 2 when she was still also in the number 1 slot. So I forgot to put in Moon Knight here. I was looking back at the video, I'm like, I thought I had Moon Knight in this video. So yeah, I just completely forgot. So this is actually being recorded few days after I recorded this video originally, so that's why there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. But I'm just going to insert this clip here right after Ghost Rider, because that's where Moon Knight was when I had originally written them down. So number 4 is going to be Moon Knight's Mr. Knight uniform, and don't really need to say much about this uniform. This uniform is amazing from Moon Knight. He is probably the best combat character in the game with this uniform. His damage output is absolutely insane, and yes, you will need to awaken him and transcend his potential to actually take advantage of that damage, because you do need to use his awakening skill. But he is damage proc friendly, so you don't need to use any CTPs on him. You can just use a standard damage proc and he will still output insane amounts of damage. His survivability is okay, because I say okay even though he has that massive heal, just because he dies really quickly if you take just a couple hits in a row. So yes, he does have that really nice heal, but he can die still very quickly in just a couple hits. Luckily, his transcendent potential stats do help mitigate that a little bit. But yeah, Moon Knight, definitely a must buy. He's a free-to-play character, insane damage, best combat character you can get your hands on, and worthy of the Transcendence. So yeah, worth your materials and investments. So now let's move on to number 5 on the list. Number 5 is going to be Odin, and he's another native tier 2. And Odin right here with his All-Father uniform, again, is just an amazing character all around. He has insane damage. He's got very good survivability. He can work in PvE. He can work in PvP. He may not be the best PvP character, but he still does very well there, actually, in PvP. He can take down Null quite easily. So yeah, he's a very strong character, but he is a character that you kind of need or want a CTP of Rage on, so do keep that in mind. He can still perform good without a CTP of Rage, but you really need the CTP of Rage to make him shine. So that's one drawback to Odin here. So you could also just go defensive and make him a PvP character with going with CTP of Regen on him, or just an Authority or something like that on Odin. But best in slot is definitely a CTP of Rage for him, because his damage output is so insane. And since he's a native tier 2 and one that I do consider needing a rage, we do have an alternative free-to-play option here, and that's going to be Medusa. So the Inhuman Queen here, she is amazing with her Inhumans versus X-Men uniform. You do want to get her transcended or awaken her potential to get that awakening skill to really have her shine, but she can still do very well even without her awakening skill. She has very high damage output with the awakening skill. She has one-shot potential. You can even do the one-shot team with her just at tier 2 and just go with her 5th skill, but of course you're not going to one-shot stages as high as you could with the awakening skill. And yeah, it's a little trickier because I believe the 5th skill is the one with her all defense down. I can't even remember now. I should probably check that. No, that wasn't the one. This is the 4th skill. Okay, no, with the 4th skill you can do stuff like that because the 4th skill still hits pretty hard. But anyway, yeah, Medusa is definitely making the list here. Very, very good free-to-play character, and also one of the better characters to awaken as well, at least in my opinion. So that's Medusa taking the number 5 slot with Odin there. So yeah, let's go ahead. Oh, and she of course works without a CTP of Rage. You can do CTP of Energy, you can do just a regular damage proc Obelisk. Either way, very strong character. So let's move on to the next slot. All right, number 6 here is going to be Nimrod. So Nimrod, or the uniform for Sentinel here, Nimrod the Lesser, is just an amazing support uniform and also a very strong standalone uniform as well. So if you give Nimrod here a debuff lead, you can hit that magic minus 100% all defense down. So using Nimrod as your DPS can work as well. He can hit very, very hard with this uniform here just because of that minus 100% all defense down. So yeah, that's also something to keep in mind. But he's best in slot striker because he does his all defense down skill while striking. So this is pretty much a must buy because he's used in a lot of striker, or he's used most often as a striker for most of your clears. So you definitely want to pick up this uniform for the striker potential. He is a paywall character, so that's going to be the only downside to Sentinel here. And since he's a paywall character, I will of course give you an alternative uniform for a free-to-play character, and that is going to be Taskmaster. So Taskmaster is a great alternative here. He's another support character, or not another support character, because Nimrod isn't necessarily a support character, he's a striker. But Taskmaster here is a very strong support character because with his uniform he gets that support passive to increase damage against superheroes and super villains. So a very strong uniform and a very powerful support character here. So he will also take the number 6 slot with Nimrod. So let's move on to number 7 on the list. Number 7 here is going to be Venom. So Venom here with his War of the Realms uniform is actually quite strong in most areas of the game except for PvP. He can do okay in PvP, but he's definitely not going to be a recommended character there. He will need a CTP of Rage though, sadly, to perform in PvE content, or at least to a high level. He can still get away with a regular damage proc, but if you want to start pushing those high stages or even try him out against Null, then you definitely need a CTP of Rage on him, along of course with his tier 3. But the other reason why he's on the list here is because, like Nimrod, he is one of the best in slot strikers, because when he strikes, he uses his 4th skill, which drops those magic healing globs that can heal your team. So that's going to be why he also makes the list here, because I don't have him personally at tier 3. I just use him as a striker, and I pretty much use him as a striker in most of my teams. You know, unless I'm fighting Null, then of course I can only use him once as a striker. But yeah, one of the best striker characters here. Actually, I would say he is the best striker character, so that's why this is a must-buy uniform, and he's free to play, so that makes him even better than Nimrod, at least in terms of availability. And you can of course get away with just using his anti-venom uniform here if you're going to strictly use him as a striker. So if you already have this uniform here, you can keep this one for the healing, but if you plan to try to use Venom a little bit as a standalone DPS or just as a character, then you definitely need this War of the Realms look for him. So let's go ahead and move on to number 8 on the list. Alright, so Starlord is going to be our number 8 here. I don't know if that surprised a lot of people or not, but Starlord here with his grounded uniform is very, very powerful. You will need him, of course, at tier 3, but that's pretty much all you need. You just need this uniform, need him at tier 3, and then you can slap an obelisk on him, and he is good to go. And since he is in the epic quest related to getting Beta Ray Bill, a lot of people probably have him at tier 3, so that's also a huge bonus or positive for Starlord here. yeah, he's just an amazing PvE character with this uniform here. He can take down Null with an obelisk, so there's not many characters that can do that. So Starlord has some insane damage output and just an all-around very strong character for just PvE content. Not much value in PvP. He does, of course, have his leadership as well, so even if you're not using him as the main DPS, or if you have him as like the secondary DPS, you can use his leadership to boost up your other characters. So that's why Starlord also makes the list here for the must-buy uniforms. So let's move on to number 9. All right, number 9 here is going to be Hulk with the Immortal Hulk uniform. This uniform for Hulk is just amazing. He has insane survivability. He is so hard to kill, and he's a PvP monster. So he's very, very strong in PvP with this uniform here. He's got iframe ignore, and he's just a pain in the ass to kill. And also, he is a character that can perform very well in PvE content, even with a PvP build. So yeah, even with your PvP build, you can still take him into pretty high stages on World Boss Ultimate, and he can actually perform well there. So that's why Hulk is also making this list here. He's free to play and just a very good tier 3 in my opinion. So Hulk is number 9. So let's move on to the last slot here, which is number 10. So number 10 here is going to be Silver Surfer. So Silver Surfer with his black uniform here, just another very strong character. He's very good in all aspects of the game. He can do very well in PvP and mainly in PvP. So he's just a very, very strong character for PvP because of his third skill. He's got great survivability. He's got the revive. And also he just has very high damage output because of the all defense down that he has on the 5th skill. So give him a debuff lead and he can perform extremely well in PvE content. So that's also why he's going to make the list here. But like I said, since he's a native tier 2, I will give you a free-to-play alternative, and that is going to be Gwenom. So Gwenom's going to be my free-to-play alternative here for the last slot. I've just been in love with this uniform ever since it came out. She's got very good damage. She's got great survivability. I just really like this uniform. It just makes her very, very good in PvE content. She has her awakening, which also just hits really hard. So Gwenom, I just really, really like this uniform. There's going to be people that say that there are better options out there besides Gwenom. I just really like Gwenom here at this slot. Bullseye is also a honorable mention because he's one that's been performing really well with his awakening skill and new uniform. But I chose Gwenom just because I just really like the uniform. And now for the kind of honorable mentions of uniforms that are must-buys, but they're the limited uniforms is why I didn't actually include them on the actual top 10 here. So let's move over to those uniforms. So we have the Holiday Lady Deadpool. Everyone knows that this uniform is basically a must-buy, so I will put on in the video here just to be just to include everything basically, but this is a limited uniform, so it's only available around the holiday time, so keep that in mind. If you're watching this video in the future, then of course this uniform is unavailable for you to even purchase. But Deadpool here with the holiday party uniform is just amazing because of the ability to get to minus 100% all defense down. So that just makes for insane damage output and a character that can be used with a defensive build and still do extremely high stages of World Boss Ultimate. So yeah, Holiday Lady Deadpool, a must pick up if you have the opportunity to get it. Okay, and the next one here, which people may not agree with, is the Enchantress Summer Days uniform. So I've just really, really enjoyed this uniform. You do need to have a CTP of Judgment or Rage on her to take advantage of this uniform. But if you have either of those equipped on Enchantress, she is a beast in PvE content. She just destroys the high stages for Coal Obsidian and for Ebony. So yeah, she's just a very, very powerful character with this Summer Days uniform. Again, this is a limited summertime uniform, so if you're watching, well, actually it's not available right now, so maybe available in the future if you're watching this video. But yeah, it's another one that could be unavailable. The only downside is this uniform does cost real money, or it costed real money the first time it was released. It has not had a second release, of course, at the time of recording this video, so maybe they will change that. I do not know, but that is the one downside, is you will actually have to spend real money to unlock this uniform. But again, this uniform is very powerful, and I really do like this uniform. The last uniform to go over here for the holiday uniform, or not the holiday, for the limited time uniforms, is going to be White Fox's new holiday uniform, which is the Lifestyle Series 2. This uniform, which as you can see I do not own, and it is unavailable. Well, actually no, I can still get it if I wanted to, but I'm not getting it because it does cost real money to get. So that is the big downside to this uniform, is you will have to pay real money to get this, but the uniform is amazing. She is a very, very strong standalone character, so she can put out the DPS on her own, but she has amazing support with this uniform, the best support character in the game, like hands down. So she has her support for 65% increased damage if you have the leadership tag, and then also if you're a hero, which I don't think there's any villains except for maybe one that has the leadership tag. I can't even remember if they took that away or not. But anyway, she gives all attack, chain hit damage, and ignore dodge. So hands down, just, yeah, this uniform is just so good. I really wish I could pick it up, but as of the current state of the game, depending on when you're watching this video, it is not a good time to be picking up this uniform. So yeah, that was just to be completely inclusive of all the uniforms that I do think are very good. So I wasn't going to leave this one out just because we're avoiding buying it right now. It is still an amazing uniform, whether you want to admit it or not, because of what's going on in the game. This uniform is just very powerful. But that's going to be it for this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of different style video for my particular channel. Of course, there's a lot of videos out there for top 10s or recommendations for uniforms and stuff like that, but it's just not something that I have done yet. I know this video is a little bit long, but hopefully you guys enjoyed nonetheless. If you enjoyed this, let me know, and I'll do this for, you know, some other kind of lists. Like I was thinking of doing a top 5 or top 10 for tier 3 characters, for awakening characters, just for regular tier 2 characters that don't have either a tier 3 or awakening. So yeah, let me know if you would like to see any of these other videos that I mentioned there. And again, the videos will all just be my opinion. It's not like I know what the best characters in the game are. It's just my experience from playing this game since launch, the characters that I like, that I feel are really good and just have a good solid impact on your accounts when you play them. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.